Hey, hi and hello. Chris here. Thanks for stopping by. I do appreciate it. Just a little bit of a warning. If it sounds a little bit more echoey in here than normal, I apologize. I am moving. My place is pretty bare right now. So I apologize, but I will be in my new place soon and we shouldn't have any issues. Anyway, today's story. Oh my goodness, today's story. Well, this one is not only a weird one, but it's a frustrating one. I imagine a lot of you are going to have the same kind of reaction I did when I heard about this story, but you know, it is what it is. This is an unsolved murder case, and while I'm the kind of girl that really hates the unknown, like an unknown ending, I think these stories are also really important to talk about as well as the other ones. This one also may be a bit long, so grab your coffee, your adult Betty, or drink of your choice, sit back and relax. As always, viewer discretion is advised. Okay, so this story is actually going to make your head spin, and I'm going to try my best to keep everything straight for you guys. But there's a lot. Okay, so there's 4 people involved with this story. We have Robert Wone, he's the victim. We have Joseph Price, he's a longtime college friend of Robert's. He's a powerful lawyer specializing in gay rights. We have Victor Zabrowski. He is Joseph's main domestic partner. And a little bit of interesting information, he was actually the senior marketing manager for the milk education program. You know, Got Milk slogan? Yeah, that was him. Anyway, we also have Dylan Ward. Now, Dylan Ward is part of the trio, also known as a throuple, but he plays a more passive role in the relationship. Evidently, he's a massage therapist, but he also attended culinary school. So just to give you the whole picture, Joseph and Victor are the main couple, and they share the master bedroom upstairs on the top floor. Dylan has his own bedroom on the second floor. And they were just known as a happy family, even though they didn't all stay in the same room. Evidently, there is a dom-sub sexual relationship with Dylan and Joseph. Dylan being the dominant one, Joseph being the submissive one. Also, just a little bit of a side note, there is a woman who lives in the house named Sarah Morgan. Evidently, she lives in a basement room, but she was not around that night. She had told the guys that she was going out with friends and told them not to expect her home that night. I am only introducing her because her name does come up and I didn't want you guys to get confused later. Okay, so do we have all that? We got all that. Okay, so let's talk about Robert, okay? So Robert Eric Wone, he was 32 years old when this all happened. He was a 4th generation Chinese American, born in New York City. And Robert excelled in school, and he was very dedicated to his community. He became a successful lawyer, but later on changed his job. He actually went to go work for a company called Asia Free Radio. So he lives in Oakton, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., and he lives with his wife, Catherine. He met Catherine in college. They had a whirlwind romance, fell in love, and got married. Robert was very involved in volunteering. He won several awards, including one for excellence of character. Excellence of character. I like that. Anyway, and he was so involved with so many organizations that I wish I had the time to list them all for you guys. But needless to say, he was very successful, he was very generous with his time, and he was so dedicated to his community. In August of 2006, Robert decides to attend a continued learning class in DC after work. He was very ambitious, so this additional course really didn't surprise anyone. But it would have been a very long day. You know, he was going to work and then the class and then the commute back home. The commute itself was about 30 minutes, only to have to like go to sleep, get up and go right back to work. So he decides to reach out to a lifelong friend named Joseph, and he lives in DC. And he reached out to him to see if he could just stay there for the night. Joseph agrees. So 9:30 p.m., Robert calls his wife and tells her that he's finished class and he's going to stop by his work for a bit, then head over to Joseph's. 10:24 p.m., Robert calls Joseph. They have a brief conversation, and I can only assume that he's letting Joseph know that he's actually on the way. The details of the call are actually unknown. Robert gets a taxi. It's approximately an 8-minute drive, so we can assume he gets to the home about 10:32 p.m. Robert, Joseph, and Dylan stayed up and chatted a little bit. Victor had already gone to bed. He went to bed after dinner, so he really wasn't around while they were chatting. But it was getting late, so around 11 p.m. they all decided to go upstairs and get some sleep. And they said that they would just catch up in the morning. It is stated that Robert had taken a shower before going to bed, and Joseph and Victor had just finished watching a TV show, Project Runway, if you're interested to know. Between 11:05 p.m. and 11:07 p.m., Robert wrote 2 emails on his BlackBerry. One to his wife saying that he arrived and he would call her in the morning, and another to a coworker confirming lunch the next day. Neither of these emails were sent. They were actually both sitting in the draft folder. And why the emails were not sent was never ever discovered. Just on a little bit of a side note, I want to tell you now that the BlackBerry that he was using was actually never fingerprinted, as the police gave the phone back to Radio Free Asia, obviously too soon. And when that company got it back, they had completely reset and erased all the information that was on there. So now it's approximately 11:35 p.m. The neighbors were watching the news and they heard a panicked scream coming from next door. Joseph and Victor state that they had been awoken by the door chime going off, although they can't recall the exact time that they actually heard it. They do have a security system in the house, but for some reason, this night it was actually disarmed. Even though the system was disarmed, the door still chimes when it's opened or closed. It has one of those chimes that go beep beep. I think we've all heard them at one point. Anyway, they didn't really think anything of the chime going off. They just thought maybe it was Sarah coming home, that she had just changed her mind about spending the night out and made her way back home. They say after they heard the door chime, they just went back to sleep. Between 11:10 p.m. and 11:49 p.m., what happens in the house is unknown, and there is a lot of speculation as to what went on. 11:49 p.m., Victor, very hysterical, calls 911. The 911 operator mistakes Victor for a woman, and the call lasts 7 minutes.
DC Emergency 911 operator 6752. Do you need police, fire, or ambulance?
Immediately. We need an ambulance.
What's wrong, ma'am?
We had someone that was in our house, evidently, and they stabbed somebody.
Okay, somebody's inside the house now?
I don't know. We heard.
Are they bleeding? You see someone bleeding?
Someone is bleeding in our house.
Okay, where's they bleeding from?
I think in the stomach.
In the stomach? Is he conscious? Calm down for me. I'm going to send some help, okay? Female or male?
It's a male. He's a friend of ours. He's spending the night with us.
Okay, and who was the person that stabbed him? Do you know? Is he conscious?
We need an ambulance.
Ma'am, listen to me.
He's not conscious.
He's not conscious at all?
No. We need someone right now.
Is he breathing? Listen to me. Calm down. I'm going to help you, okay? Is he breathing?
I'm upstairs, and he's downstairs. I don't know.
Okay, who's downstairs with him?
My partner is downstairs with him right now. He told me to go upstairs and call the police immediately. I just went to the stairs. And
okay, who's the person? Okay, I'm sending paramedics and the police. Okay, who's the person that stabbed him?
I don't know. We think it's somebody with an intruder in the house. We heard the chime at the door.
And it's 15, ma'am, calm down. 1509 Swan Street, Northwest. Am I correct?
Yes, it is.
The person that stabbed him, is he still in the home?
I don't know.
We got help en route, okay?
Pardon me?
We have help en route.
Thank you. They're here.
They are en route to you now. I'm sending the police and the paramedics, okay, to assist. Okay, what I need you to do is go downstairs, okay? The place wherever he was stabbed at, I need you to get a dry cloth, okay? And just apply pressure to that area. If he was wherever he was stabbed at on his body, I need you to take a towel downstairs while you're waiting for the paramedics to arrive and just apply pressure. Even if the rag or towel is saturated with blood, just get another towel and put it on top, but never lift the first towel off the area. Hold it on. Once it gets filled up with blood, just put another towel on top of that and just apply pressure until the paramedics arrive.
Pressure until they get
yes.
on the leg.
Yeah.
With stab in the heart.
In the heart?
Yes. In the center of his chest.
Okay. Is he breathing?
Is he breathing?
We have help en route now, okay? You don't know who it was?
I have no idea. So don't touch this.
Okay, is he breathing?
He's breathing, but he needs help now.
Okay, we have help en route, ma'am, okay? We do have help en route. Okay, just go down there and try to tell your husband or your the other half to just try to keep him calm and talk to him, okay? Keep him calm and talk to him until someone gets there.
Okay.
And at the same time, get a dry cloth and just hold it right there in the area.
My partner's holding the holding it on him.
Okay, and once it gets saturated with blood, tell him get another one. Go get another towel so you can apply it on top of that one once it gets filled up with blood.
Okay,
we need you to apply pressure on that area.
He is applying pressure right now.
Okay, just hold it there until the paramedics get there. They should be pulling up any moment. If they're already en route to your location, you don't know who did this.
We have no idea who did this.
Is the door open so they can get in?
We don't know how they got in.
Okay, well, I'm asking you now, is the door open so the paramedics can get in once they get here?
What? Sorry. What were you saying?
Is the door open so they can get in? Is the door open so the paramedics can get in the home?
I'm going to go down.
Is this a private home or apartment?
It's a home.
It's a home. It's 1509 Swan Street, Northwest.
The person had one of our knives.
The person that stabbed him ran out the door with a knife?
I think so.
Okay, anybody get any type of description of the person that came in the
I
home?
have no idea. We have no description. We heard the chime, and we heard the scream from our friend.
Okay.
And so we came running downstairs. We ran in.
So you both was upstairs and your friend was downstairs?
Yes.
You heard the door open and then you heard the scream?
I didn't hear the door open until after the scream, and then we ran down the stairs and we heard we have an alarm, and so the chime went off.
Okay.
Is the ambulance? Please, we really need the ambulance.
Okay, they en route now, ma'am. Go to the door. They should be pulling up any moment. Okay.
I'm afraid to go downstairs.
Okay, the person who's downstairs was the person that was assaulted.
No, we're on the second floor.
Okay, so somebody need to go downstairs and open the door for the paramedics. You're not sure if that person's still in the home or not.
I have no idea.
Okay, we have paramedics en route, okay?
What time is it?
What time is it at the moment?
Yes.
23:54. It's 11:54, ma'am.
11:54.
Yes.
I mean,
I'll stay on the line with you. I will stay on the line until somebody gets here, okay? I won't hang up.
we need them right now. I'm not hanging up, but we need help now.
Okay, they en route, ma'am. They are en route. Let me know when you hear the paramedics. Can you look out the window and see if you hear them coming?
I'm looking out the window, and I see nothing. I see nobody.
Okay, it seems like forever, but they are en route, ma'am. They're coming.
Here they are. Here they are.
They're there?
I'm going downstairs.
Okay. I'll stand in line with you till you open the door for the paramedics, okay?
Help us. We have someone was stabbed. They're on our second floor.
Ma'am?
No, it's really an emergency. I mean, maybe. Please hurry.
Ma'am, it's going to be okay.
Now, after hearing that, I just want to remind you that the 911 operator is telling Victor that someone needs to be applying pressure to the wounds. And Victor confirms a few times that yes, someone is applying pressure to the wounds. 11:54 p.m., paramedics arrive at the scene. Victor lets them in. He's still hysterical at this point, understandably so. Halfway up the stairs, the paramedics run into Dylan. They ask Dylan where the victim is, and he doesn't say anything. He just kind of nonchalantly points down the hall, goes into his room, and shuts the door. Immediately, one of the paramedics is starting to feel something isn't right. Both men, Victor and Dylan, appeared to be freshly showered, wearing white bathrobes, and the fact that Dylan didn't even say anything just seemed so off. I mean, you would think if there's a guest that was dying in your home, you'd have a little bit more sense of urgency with the paramedics. But no, he just pointed down the hallway, turned and walked into his room and shut the door. So bizarre. The paramedics enter the spare bedroom, and the first thing that they notice is the fact that Joseph was sitting on the bed in his underwear with his back towards the door, not applying pressure to the wounds like the 911 operator had instructed. Robert, he was laying on a fold-out bed. His head was resting on a pillow, and the bedding underneath, it was still made up. It looked like he had never even slept on it. Certainly, he was not sleeping in it. I mean, it was perfectly in place. And clearly, you could tell by the bedding that there was never a struggle on that bed whatsoever. Robert was wearing basketball shorts and an old college t-shirt. And it was stated that he had his mouth guard in. So I guess he was a teeth grinder. One of the paramedics asked Joseph what is going on, and Joseph replies that he heard a scream, and then Joseph stands up and moves to the other side of the bed. The paramedic is so bothered by Joseph's behavior that he later said that the hair on the back of his neck stood up. The paramedic, while he's in the room, makes the decision to go to the other side of the bed, even though it's the furthest side, just so he could kind of keep an eye on Joseph. Something just didn't feel right. I also want to let you guys know that these paramedics that are here at the scene, they are not rookies. They are seasoned paramedics with multiple years behind them, and they have seen a lot. And even they had stated later on that everything just seemed really strange. It was a really weird vibe in the house. The paramedics found 3 deep stab wounds in the chest area. On the victim's shirt, there were 3 slits that lined up with these wounds. But what is really bizarre? There is no blood. There is no blood anywhere. If someone was stabbed 3 times in the chest, there would be blood lots of blood. Nothing was on the bed, nothing was around the bed. There was only a little bit of blood on the shirt, but it looked like it was like somebody had wiped something on the shirt. Certainly not enough blood from being stabbed. The only blood that was really noted was underneath Robert, and that was just from when the paramedics were moving Robert from the bed onto the stretcher. On the nightstand, there were 2 wallets. Robert actually carried a dummy wallet because he was always afraid of being mugged. There was his watch, a few other things. There was a damp towel and a knife that had blood on it. The towel was what the men claimed they used to apply pressure to the stab wounds. Oh, please. I mean, I get more blood on a paper towel from a paper cut. Anyway, paramedics take Robert to the hospital, and sadly, he was pronounced dead at 12:24 a.m. August 3rd, DC detectives start their investigation at 1509 Swan Street. There is no evidence of forced entry. The home had many high-end electronics. Both Robert's wallets that still had cash inside were still there. So clearly this wasn't a robbery, as nothing of value was even touched. Detectives actually bring in cadaver dogs. For those of you that don't know, these dogs are actually trained to locate death. Bones, blood, body parts, stuff like that. The dogs hid on blood in a drain, a rear stairwell, and in the dryer's lint trap. Detectives also noted that it looked like someone had recently used the outside hose, as it was uncoiled, and it looked like whoever had put it back in the holder, it was rushed because it was kind of just all hanging there. The investigators had a suspicion that any bloodstained clothing was cleaned with the hose outside, then placed in the dryer to dry. Drug dogs were also brought into the house, but the only drugs that were detected is they found some ecstasy in Dylan's room. Detectives did find an abundance of S&M toys and books, and hey, nothing wrong with that if you're into it. But one particular toy that was found was what they call a milking machine. Now this toy apparently wraps around the penis and it stimulates the prostate in order to cause ejaculation. And you are probably wondering, Chris, why are you telling us this? Well, just keep that little bit of info inside your head. Just keep it there, we'll get back to it. Inside Dylan's room, they find cutlery knives that his mother had given to him when he had graduated culinary school, and oh, there was a knife missing. When asked, Joseph and Victor state that they had been woken up by the chime of the door, beep beep, but they didn't think anything of it. They heard a low muffled scream and were concerned, so they started heading downstairs and they were going to go look to see what was going on. They looked in Robert's room and saw him laying there wounded. Joseph said he ran to his friend Robert, all while telling Victor to call 911. Dylan wakes up from all this commotion. He comes out of the room to see what was going on. Victor states that he had actually moved the knife off Robert's chest and put it on the nightstand. Joseph says that he applied pressure to the wounds as directed by the 911 operator with the towel that was on the nightstand. Remember that towel with virtually no blood on it? I'll show you another picture. Yes, this is the one that he said he used to put pressure on 3 stab wounds. Ridiculous. So many things are not adding up. So the detectives bring all 3 men down to the station for questioning. During the interrogation, Joseph was described as being arrogant, unconcerned, self-centered, basically just being an ass. Victor, remember Victor? He was the one who called 911 and was all hysterical. Well, I guess somehow he found a way to compose himself really fast, because now he was acting actually completely uninterested and not helping with the investigation at all. And Ward, he just seemed very calm, nonchalant, just basically nonchalant about the whole thing. Okay, so you guys think things are weird now? Just wait. Just wait. So during the autopsy, the coroner finds that the 3 stab wounds are exactly the same. I mean exactly the same depth, the same width apart, the same angle. 1 puncture to the heart, 1 to the right lung, and 1 to the abdomen. So you're probably wondering, was Robert already dead and then stabbed? One may think that because A, there was no blood anywhere, and B, with all the stab wounds being that precise, there was clearly no struggle or no fight when it was happening. If he were alive, obviously he would be putting up a fight. The wounds, the stab wounds from the knife would be a little bit more jagged and obviously not as immaculate as they were. But according to the coroner, Robert was alive for at least 60 seconds after the first stabbing. Because of this finding, the stab wounds would then indicate that the victim was either unconscious or had been extremely restrained. Robert had petechial hemorrhaging in his eyes, which indicated that his airway had been blocked and that he was struggling to breathe. This happens through suffocation or strangulation. Although it was determined that this was not the cause of death and that it was actually the stabbings, the coroner also found 6 needle marks around Robert's body, on his neck, his left hand, his chest, and his right foot. Now, they did do the standard tox screen testing, you know, alcohol, cocaine, date rape, drugs, and there's a few others, but everything came back negative. Unfortunately, tox screens are only useful when you know what you are looking for. There is no test out there that tests for everything under the sun and then comes back with your answer. They found semen around his penis and his genital areas and in his anus. Okay, so you're probably thinking, get it tested to see whose semen it was. Well, they did. And get this, it was his own semen. I mean, I can understand how his semen could be on his own penis and genital area, but how does his semen get into his own anus? Well, one theory that was brought up was the fact that they think this milking machine that we had talked about earlier, they think that maybe he was forcibly made to ejaculate and maybe some other device, toy or something was used after in his anus. Now remember, this is all theory because no one really knows what happened that night. What we do know for sure is that Robert was not gay. He was very happily married. And while he supported the LGBTQ community, he never experimented, nor did he ever have any desire to. It was also noted that there were no fibers from Robert's t-shirt inside the stab wounds, indicating that he was not stabbed through the shirt. If someone was being stabbed through the shirt, fibers from the clothes would be inside the stab wounds. So the shirt had the slits in them. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. So heading back to the house and the investigation, which I believe the house was being processed for approximately 3 weeks. The knife that they found on the bedside table, you know, the one that the men said that they had actually lifted from Robert's chest and put on the table? Well, that was not the murder weapon. Nope, it surely wasn't. So that's another curious thing. The knife was on top of his chest, but it wasn't even the weapon that was used. It makes no sense. I know, you guys are probably thinking, wait, what about that missing knife from Dylan's culinary set? Well, you see, even though it was a gift from his mom decided to keep one of the knives. You know, because that makes sense. Give a partial gift to someone. Just a little bit of a side note, later on, Mom was able to produce this missing knife, but really, how easy could it be to go out and buy another one? The towel, remember the towel that they had used to apply pressure to the wound? Well, experts state that the pattern on the towel is not consistent of somebody applying pressure to a stab wound, especially stab wounds to the heart, lung, and abdomen. So much blood would be coming out. Not only that, but if you recall, when the paramedics arrived, nobody was applying pressure to the wounds. When investigating that towel, they did say that it was more consistent to having just blood wiped on it. I mean, come on, I can't even. Of course that wasn't the towel used to apply pressure. At this time, all three men lawyer up. And remember, I'm all for getting a lawyer, so that makes sense. That totally makes sense. They do decline any more open participation. While they do offer up DNA samples, they refuse to answer any more questions without their lawyers present. And I get it. Just a little bit of a tidbit for you guys. Later on in October, Joseph's brother, Michael Price, uses his own key to enter the townhouse and burglarize it. Allegedly, he had a substance abuse problem and wanted to steal some money to go get some drugs. So this brings up the intruder theory again on how someone could have gotten in without any signs of forced entry. Unfortunately, there was nothing to go on with that, and it was just speculation. 2 years go by and this case remains unsolved. Police are frustrated and confused as to what happened that night in the townhouse. We don't know who murdered Robert or why. No motive was ever found. On October 2008, Dylan Ward is finally charged with obstruction of justice. A month later, in November, Joseph Price and Victor Zabrowski were also charged with obstruction of justice. During this time, Robert's wife, Catherine, sues all three men in a civil court. She files a $20 million wrongful death lawsuit. June of 2010, a judge finds all three men not guilty of obstruction of justice or tampering with the evidence. The judge explained in her ruling, while she believed that all three men knew something about what happened that night, she was not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that they had actually committed the offenses that they were being charged with. I know. It seems like all the evidence is staring us right in the face. But I guess, for a lawsuit, if you think about it, there's no motive, no murder weapon, no fingerprints. There's virtually nothing. All three men's statements all stayed consistent, didn't waver throughout the whole thing. It is so frustrating. August of 2011, the civil suit that Catherine had on all three men does settle for an undisclosed amount. Joseph Price ends up selling his townhome, and to this day, the case remains open. But some things that really are curious. Why was the door chime only heard once? I mean, had the intruder already been in the house hiding, and then the chime they heard was the intruder leaving? why was Robert the victim? I mean, it was a very spur-of-the-moment decision to stay there. Nobody had really known he was there except for his wife. So was he like the actual target? Like, it doesn't even make sense. Why was everyone so clean and wearing bathrobes? And the biggest question of all is, where was all the blood? Where was the blood? 3 stab wounds to the chest area and no blood anywhere makes 0 sense. So, like I said earlier, there's a lot of speculation and a lot of theories that have been floating around over the years, obviously. The 2 main theories that I could actually find that most people were talking about was that it was an intruder. But this really makes no sense to me because nothing was stolen, nothing was out of place. So what, some random intruder goes in, selects one room, murders someone, and then leaves? Like, that to me is absurd. And then another theory is the fact that maybe it was a sex game gone wrong. So many people think that they may have, the 3 men may have been actually pursuing Robert for some kind of sex games. And when Robert refused, that's when things turned bad. But who really knows what happened? It happened so long ago, and I'm thinking that, you know what, we're never gonna know what actually happened that night at 1509 Swan Street. So what do you guys think? Have you actually heard of this case before? Have you heard of other theories that I didn't talk about? Comment down below. I would like to know your opinions. And are you as baffled and frustrated as I am when I heard about this case? I mean, like I said, it seems like it's a pretty open and shut case, but when you look at the actual evidence, it really isn't. And according to authorities, there are just way too many unanswered questions and certainly not enough solid evidence to charge anybody with the murder of Robert Wone. I hope you guys found this story interesting as much as I did. And if you haven't subscribed and you like true crime, please don't forget to hit that little subscribe button on your way out. And if you hit that little bell, you can get notified every time I upload. Until the next case, stay safe and please take care of yourselves. Lots of love from Calgary.